The housing market is at a standstill. Basically, home sellers and buyers are in a virtual tug of war where sellers want 2021 prices and buyers want more affordability, meaning lower prices and lower mortgage rates. This is the biggest gap between both sides in more than a decade. So we're going to look into that and what that means nationally, what that means locally here in San Diego, and we're going to get into the numbers, how many sellers there are, how many buyers there are, what is the median home price in San Diego, days on market, and generally what this all means. And I'm also going to cover one really interesting fact about if you are living in a buyer's market and it's not what you think. Hey, real quick, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Jade, a local realtor here in San Diego County, and I cover the housing market and what's going on every week so you can stay informed. So thank you for joining me and let's get into it. So making the headlines this week from Newsweek, a recent article says housing market reaches point not seen since years after 2008 crash. It goes on to say the housing market gap between buyers and sellers is the largest it's been since 2013, according from a new analysis from Redfin. So basically, it is saying that the gap between the buyers and sellers, there are 36.8% more sellers in the market than buyers. And if you are thinking about this in real numbers, there are 100 buyers for every 136.8 properties, which means there's basically 37 more properties than there are buyers in the market. So this is tipping into buyer territory. There are fewer buyers, more supply. So the buyers have more negotiating power and more leverage. So that says that right here, home sellers outnumber buyers by a record 36.8% in October, giving buyers in the market room to negotiate. However, there was also a 1.7% drop to the lowest number of buyers on record since the start of the pandemic. So even though that there are more sellers in the market, buyers also actually had a drop of the number of buyers that were looking in the market to purchase a property. So we've got a really interesting graphic from Redfin. It's here. Number of home buyers hits second lowest level on record. The number of home buyers in the U.S. dropped 1.7% month over month in October to an estimated 1.44 million, the lowest level on record aside from April 2020 during the pandemic, when the pandemic brought the housing market to a halt. That is the largest monthly decline since June. And then as you can see in the graphics, so the blue line is the number of sellers in the market and the red line is the number of buyers. And as you can see, this gap is the biggest gap we've had on record apart from the pandemic. So it is, number of sellers is 1.96 million sellers across the nation, whereas with buyers, it's 1.44 million in the market. So this is a huge gap. And where are the strongest buyers markets? So right now they are in Texas and Florida, where we have seen a lot of surging home prices during the pandemic. And because of that demand, since so many people were moving to these warmer climates, there was a lot of home building that happened, and now these homes are sitting empty. The biggest buyers market right now is in San Antonio. Right here it says, in San Antonio, there was an estimated 18,476 home sellers and 8,497 home buyers. So that's even less than half the number of sellers that there are in the market, the largest imbalance across the 50 most populous metros in the nation. And next is Austin at 115% gap, Miami at 108, Fort Lauderdale, and Nashville. So if you were wondering how many of the 50 most populous metros are buyers markets, according to Redfin, 35 markets are buyers markets right now, whereas 9 are balanced and 6 are sellers market, are more skewed towards the Midwest and East Coast. And the strongest market, if you are curious, was in Nassau County in New York, the strongest sellers market in October with an estimated 7,500 sellers and close to 12,000 buyers. For 37% fewer sellers than buyers. Now, closer to home in California, hey, real quick, if you have any questions about this video or your specific property or neighborhood, don't hesitate to reach out. My number is right here on the screen. Call, text me. I would love to hear from you. And also, if you are thinking about selling your property in the next 6 to 12 months, I have a special free training video, which is 3 secrets to selling your home that buyers don't want you to know. So the link is in the description below. Okay, back to the video. In San Francisco, it has recently switched from being a buyer's market into a more balanced market. If you look at this chart right here, you can see how closely the number of buyers and the number of sellers are, which is very close. There's only a difference between about 150 people between buyers, which is 2,600, versus sellers, which is 2,400. Now diving deeper into San Diego from Redfin, it's showing 50 most populous metros. So if we look at San Diego, right now they're saying it is a buyer's market with 18.5% more sellers. The number of sellers right here, which is 7,800, and number of buyers, 6,500. So there are more sellers in the market than buyers. And the median home price is 898,000, which is 1.2% less than last year. If you were wondering if San Diego is a seller's market or a buyer's market, well, it is definitely buyer territory. Right now, days on market is set at 40 days, and that is 10 days longer than last year. So if you put your house on the market, you're probably looking at about 6 weeks on the market before you have a contract that you are going to accept. I've been tracking a lot of neighborhoods across San Diego, and I have noticed that a lot of homes are taking actually longer than that. They're taking 2 months, 3 months to go under contract if they do at all. A lot of sellers are just pulling their homes off the market and delisting them, canceling them. I have a video that I recently created, and it is right here. So you can click on that. That's in the description below if you want further information about what's happening with delistings. And also coming from CBS News 8, right here, it says, is San Diego's housing market now in a seller's market or buyer's market? And as it says, San Diego homes now take 40 days to sell, 10 days longer than last year, indicating a buyer-friendly market. It goes on to say the increase now puts San Diego 18th in the nation for the number of days homes are on the market before selling. And there are 2 really good quotes at the end of this article from Redfin's chief economist, Daryl Fairweather. He says, it is an indication that the market is moving towards being a buyer's market. When homes are taking longer to sell, it means there are usually more homes for sale than there are buyers interested in them. And that means homes aren't selling as quickly. Well, yeah, that makes sense. And homes in San Diego are accumulating on the market. And that just means that buyers probably have more negotiating power and prices will continue to moderate. Well, thank you so much for staying to the end and going along this journey of what's going on in the housing market today. And I also want to bring up one really interesting fact. Most metros across the US, 35 out of 50 metros are in buyer-friendly territory. And what's really interesting about that is even though that there are more buyers in the market than sellers and they have more negotiating power, more leverage, what's really interesting is that the number of buyers in the market is the lowest on record apart from when the pandemic hit. So right now there are around 1.4 million buyers, as opposed to pre-pandemic, it was averaging around 2 million buyers in the marketplace. And at the height in 2016, it was 2.4 million buyers. So that is just a lot more buyers than there are now. And that is due to economic uncertainty and high housing costs. So that says that right here in the Redfin article that we started with. Of course, it's only a buyer's market for those who can afford to buy. Many Americans have been priced out of the housing market as affordability has eroded. So if you are thinking about putting your house on the market, be aware of what the housing conditions are right now, and it is just a very tough market for both sides. Well, thank you for staying till the end. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I read every single one and respond. And if you found any value in this video, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing and also ticking the notification bell so you are notified of the next video that comes out. And if you like this video, consider checking out this one.